Hey, 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 everybody. How's it going? See if I can get my setup here. Oh, I should have figured this out ahead of time. How can I use the top of the tiki lantern? Well, it's at an angle. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let's see. Oh, is it working? Or is it jerking? It's just, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's at an angle there. Well, shit, I guess I'll just hold it, I guess. Oh, whew. Still enjoying my coffee here. Mm-mm. Let's see what's going on. I'm using my new tiki lamp with let's see here. Sponsored by Tiki with Bite Fighter Torchville proven mosquito repellency. Um there's two different ways to navigate the world that we both that we use both of. One of them is by an external authority, like when you follow directions or buy consumer products, and another is when you figure stuff out yourself. This tiki lamp and this oil is an example. I was just looking at this. Now look how lazy and weak and stupid we are. That's just the same kind of a fitting that you would put on a mason jar. So I was like, I wonder if it would be better to just buy a quart mason jar and, then you just keep going on from there. Gee, I wonder if I could make this substitute for a nylon rope, maybe with some kind of plant fiber, you know? Learning how to make textiles. How can I make the oil with some essential oils? Would it be cheaper, you know? So then there's two parts to that. There's using your own ability to turn your ideas into reality through work, applied imagination. And then there's how do we as a human species, whether it is a meetup group or the city I live in, the nation, or the world or beyond, and how do we cooperate without having directions? Which is connected to the topic of discussion in this video, which is a reaction to Thomas Sheridan's Alien NPC Invasion, which you see behind you, of course. I would encourage you to watch that video. He was talking about NPCs, non-player characters, which is a phrase that comes from role-playing games and video games where, like in The Legend of Zelda or something, you go to town to buy swords and equipment, and there are people in the town and people that operate the shops. Especially, I don't play these, what are they called? Multiplayer online games, something like that. where you have some people that are avatars that are controlled by real people as controlling those characters, and then the other ones are controlled by the programming of the source code. And I've felt uncomfortable with using this phrase NPC. It is used. It is popular with the alt-right online or virtual community, Trump supporters, very much the same type of person that would use a Pepe meme with the frog. Would a Trump supporter would likely use the phrase NPCs. Um, and I think what this deals with overall, I will read my comment that I left for Thomas in the audience, but I will say here that a fundamental, understandable problem we have for navigating life is that we are both an individual and part of the totality of biology and perhaps spirit life beyond the laws of physics, although would that be beyond the laws of nature, even if that did exist? I don't know. I think the two would be interdependent, right? I mean, even if you're a Christian or something, I mean, obviously it's nature and the God of nature. I mean, obviously there's a direct connection and correlation, causation. So, just basically how we're on both sides of any issue, which, to me brings up topics like schizophrenia, right? I think that people that think that they don't exhibit uh, errors in their cognition, uh, it, we all suffer from mental. None of us is 100% healthy physically. None of us is 100% healthy mentally. So people that are not able to share their vulnerabilities have a weakness from my point of view. But of course, it is possible to overpower another by hiding your weaknesses, like the old deodorant commercial, never let them see you sweat. So, in regards to using the phrase NPC, I just I feel more able to identify with both sides of that debate or any debate, and that's probably connected to the fact that my Briggs Myers designation is that of the debater. And I bring that up because it's always been recognized by myself and others that I love to argue, to debate. So that was true before I had external validation of it. So there you go. There's another example. In a sane world, you're always vectoring two different points of view. What do you call that? Triangulating. You're always finding your direction by combining two different intelligence sources, your internal and your external view, to find out how to navigate. If you're looking at a compass, you're using your ability to read the compass plus what the compass is saying to find the direction. Okay, so I had, I guess it's an intuition or a feeling, a hunch that there was something really important about what Thomas is saying in this video. What really triggered me was when he was talking about Asian people, the differences between the Anglo-Westerner cultural perspective and identity and that of the Chinese mainlander Asian point of view. Um, and he was saying that they're like aliens to us. And I'm sure they would feel the same way about us. And that, I think, would be a worthwhile discussion to have. And in general, things are so polarized that I think that we would probably do well to find people that we disagree with a lot, but that we can, put those points of view on the table, even though they're very uncomfortable. If we can find somebody that we can, capture that discussion and share it, I think that that would inoculate us towards the issue of the growing divide between the natural world and the artificial world as we experience that socially, in how this is just not reconcilable. You've got people that whatever the television government says, they are going to support it and they are not going to research it, and they view it that if you are asking questions about anything, that you're a conspiracy theorist. So they don't have any regard for critical thinking. But what's worse is that they think that they do, but they're just deferring to uh, authorities on television. And I would say that even the Trump people exhibit this behavior. And we all do. I would critique the fringe malcontent, the people that don't feel they fit in community that discusses occult and conspiracies and just investigates everything, critical thinkers. We too are addicted to using. I'll read my comment here, and so go check out Thomas's video, and then let's talk about that. All right, and let him know that Chad Warren sent you, not to pump up my ego, but my goal is to take action on the intelligence that is grown within this fringe virtual community. And one way to do that, so these people make these videos discussing their points, and there needs to be a whole other layer. Like you got the media, and then you got people on YouTube predominantly that discuss those topics, that counter that narrative with evidence and speculation. And then we need a whole other layer of the audience that needs to make videos just reacting to that. And that decentralizes authority, and it helps us process information, because there's two points of view I want you to consider here. One of them is that on the one hand, life is simple, but it's hard to have the courage to do what you know to be the right thing to do is. So for example, me, I should never eat at McDonald's again. It's got, cancer causing preservatives in the food, and it strengthens the mega corporate richest 1% that run the world versus local, natural community. We the people are poor with money, and that's not where our strength lies. Our strength lies in that, you know how much money I could make if I grew food here? Tens of thousands of dollars easy. See what I'm saying? So, like, we are our own worst enemy, even if there is a person like Bill Gates that wants to kill us with vaccines and public health. That's really eugenics, because that's what was going on 100 plus years ago here in America, where they were sterilizing poor people and people that were criminal or people that had mental health issues. Okay? So, what you're saying here feels very important to me, Thomas. The idea that discomfort is a key part of learning comes to mind. Because we are not directly connected to life, it is important to value our perceptions equally on par with empirical evidence. Even if somebody is incorrect, well, that has value. What's the source of that? Why? Another phrase that the alt-right uses is, all these lefties are snowflakes. They're too gentle. They're hypersensitive. Well, I'm hypersensitive. Is it because I have red hair? Is it because I experienced some kind of trauma as a youth? Is it because I'm a spoiled rich kid? Uh, I don't know. But, I know that when I was working at Lowe's recently, something happened that has happened many times in my life. And it's that I was emotionally overwhelmed by an incident that occurred, and I followed that emotion to no longer work there, which already is something that I'm concerned with, that has been an issue with me, and I chalk it up to inheriting money, so that it always is like, well, I got this little bit of money that I can survive barely the month with. But I mean, I've been homeless, and like I say, I'm lucky to have food. I haven't applied for unemployment. I've only one time gotten food from someone who offered it through a church food bank that was somebody I only know from Facebook until I met them that time. So I'm on both sides of that issue. Which everything is good and bad depending on how you view it and what you do with it, right? So I try to share my vulnerabilities to encourage other people to, not let those get in the way of living our best life. And in addition to talking about perceptions, and then the funny thing is that, it, people that don't trust the government are often labeled as paranoid by those who do, Democrats or Trump supporters. I don't think that he is legitimate. He's a Mason. He is in support of Israel dominating the world. Uh, he has said that it is a hate crime to criticize the government of Israel. Well, is it a hate crime to criticize the government of the United States? No, we call that free speech. And is Israel the most powerful lobby in Congress? Yes. So therefore, Israel is in charge of the United States. And what is Israel? Israel is a Babylonian Zionist idea that does not even reflect what all Jews support. So, and Christians just got done with Easter. Where does Easter come from? Well, it comes from when the Jews were in captivity in Babylon. It is Ishtar, Easter. In a Freemason hall, the throne, or the where you're facing is the east, Lucifer, the rising sun of Japan. It's just so, the virus of memes is not something just on social media. It's something that we can be aware of because of social media, but the virus of ideas that, you know, we are all walking around taking action based on a perception that if we examined it further, we would realize, hey, wait a minute, this is going against your rule here. You know what I mean? So my solution to those issues is to put those contradictions on the table. One, for example, would be that when I hear about Bill Gates, I immediately connect him with eugenics and the Georgia Guidestones that says that the goal of these these rich Luciferians, these elitists, is to reduce the population down to 500 million, so by 90%. And I don't like that. But, like, just like I don't like a bully at school that I had to fight in the 8th grade. But at the same time, I don't like my own behavior, uh, let alone the behavior of other people who seem dumber than a rock and just completely, like, I'm aware that I am on this mission, to fight for these ideals. But when I talk to people that support vaccinations and all of that, believe in the COVID story, it's like they normally would be like, oh, I don't talk about politics, right? But then they're totally useful idiots. They are totally programmed, as anybody is, by watching mainstream television, let alone all the programming of, that's the problem. If this out of the frying pan into the fire, I don't want to watch conspiracy theories all day. Obviously, if you watch anything all day, then that is controlling your point of view. Sports, you know what I mean? I just noticed these weird things that, like, it's been so long since I stopped watching TV that when I watch TV, especially the news, I'm shocked as somebody that would be labeled a conspiracy theorist of all the fear mongering that comes out of the government. Stay in your house, tell a friend, it's like, golly, I feel like it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So alien is something that we're very familiar with. And this virus preys upon this idea. There's a invisible invader in my body. Okay, so how alien is our own body to our consciousness? For example, I touched the side back of my neck with my right forefinger and I felt a bump. I immediately wondered if it was cancer and if it could be connected to my new job riding with a tech who sprays lawns with fertilizer and toxic weed control. Then I assume that is being paranoid and unreasonable since I've only been working there for a few weeks. But I had a non-spreading skin cancer on my neck. Let me see if I can find it right here. Close to that site that I had removed by laser, so it's understandable I would be concerned. Then I figured it is probably a mosquito bite from when I went fishing yesterday. It's still cool here in North Little Rock, thank God. Thank Mother Nature. Arkansas, so the alien invaders known as mosquitoes aren't so bad yet. That's what I'm trying to get you comfortable with, is it is totally logical to have what appear to be competing views. I love nature. I am against Monsanto putting toxic chemicals. Bill Gates supports genetically modified organisms of Monsanto, and it kills people. At the same time, when I found some mosquito chemical that I could mix with water and spray in my yard, you better damn well believe I want to kill those. Kill them forever. Eugenics. So, uh, and I am very interested in researching organic everything, organic lawn service, fertilizing, and weed control. My point in sharing all this is that I see it as similar to Thomas's insight speculation about Anglos viewing Asians as aliens. Whitley Strieber is very progressive, yet he is within a view that overlaps with us. In the video, you will see that Thomas asks us to remember the book Communion by Whitley Strieber. I remember that book, and in my mind, it's connected with when I worked one of my first jobs at a video store in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I don't know if a movie came out then, but I think I was reading that book, and I remember that typical face of the gray alien. And you could say that it is similar to how we see Asians. And isn't it interesting? What's up with animation where they animate the people to look more Western with big round eyes? That's kind of weird, isn't it? So that just struck a chord with me. Whitley Strieber is very progressive, yet he is within a view that overlaps with us in this fringe online community that questions all this stuff. I don't feel I fit in anywhere. I'm always on the fringe of groups, hopefully not in a Mad Max way. Yeah, I mean, I was on the fringe of the punk rock scene in Hot Springs. I used to believe in Alex Jones. I still watch his stuff because some of the information is definitely true, but I organized a meetup around that, and I didn't get along with any of those people. They didn't like any of my ideas, and they didn't have any ideas, speaking of non-player characters. And one guy said, let's go across the street to the library. There's a Ron Paul campaign meeting. And we went over there, and the woman that was in charge of it goes, Dr. Paul told me personally not to allow any people associated with InfoWars to associate with this group. Which is ridiculous, because Ron Paul has been on InfoWars. Crazy. So talk about aliens and familiarity with aliens. Social immunity responses. I think a form of engineering we should put as job one is social engineering. Thomas was discussing how all the engineering jobs have gone over to China. So therefore, this obviously, I agree, would contribute to an insanity, an arrested development within people of the West, so that he was focusing on children of the 90s being where they started to become more artificial than human. And they shouldn't be celebrated as indigo children by these new agers, but should, I mean, I admit to having behaviors that could be labeled autistic. I just disagree with taking medicines for that, because the woman that was in charge of the mental health pharmacy on the highest level, she says there's absolutely no truth to this quackademic fake science model that you have these chemicals and that they're being regulated back into balance by the drugs. It's not at all what's going on. Everybody knows that. You know what I mean? Like when I take aspirin. Well, no, that's not even the best example because that does have. Well, my point is that it doesn't solve the root of the problem. That's the difference. You have natural medicine, which the Rockefellers, the damn frickin' mother of the Rockefeller was an herbalist, so he knew that worked. But then he took his experience with petroleum and refining it and turning it into a monopoly, right? You know, it comes as a natural resource out of the ground, but then it gets turned into an industrial manufactured product for consumption. And the whole consumption model, think of it, consumption was a disease that people died of, a respiratory disease. This is a respiratory disease of spiritual inspiration. You're inspired. So we're breathing in toxic ideas that are destroying the fabric of humanity. At the root, which is our mind, our heart, and the fact that you could call it spirit or you can call it quantum physics, but the essence of matter is not material. It's energetic. It's a frequency, a relationship. Is it healthy to only see social engineering as a bad thing? See what I'm saying? I know in my mind, you see, when you have a thought and then you have a feeling, that's a connotation. So social engineering is discussed in a negative way, such as Facebook, which is true. That it was designed to get us addicted and to exploit our information. But like I'm always telling other people, well, why don't we exploit our information? If my smartphone could be like, I've analyzed your speech and your breathing pattern and your heart rate, and you need to meditate and say these affirmations in order to calm down before you make a decision, I would support that. So it's about being able to stop with these hard switches between yes and no in two different states, and then going back to that natural analog of a matter of degrees of how much tech is good or bad, etc. And social engineering would just be turning these discussions into actions, into computer applications, for one. I've never been too successful in sales despite my interest in network marketing, innovative natural tech. I used and sold the longevity Dr. Wallach trace minerals and support his life story that he sued the FDA, and if it wasn't for him, we would not be able to access vitamins at the store without having to go to a doctor. So that's the battleground. Are you of nature, or are you a human resource owned by a corporation, by the richest 1% that own the governments? See what I'm saying? Then you get into all these arguments. Government, right? If government is external, and this is 101. This was supposedly America had a revolution against the British because we were taxed but we were not represented. Then the Southerners said, hey, we're producing all this wealth through agriculture, and you people in New York, these big cities, are having more influence than us. Yet we're the ones that do the work that create the national product. Yet here today, oh, if you supported the South, you're racist. Really? you're carrying a smartphone that is made by people that are slave laborers in China that jump off of the building they work at so much they have to put up suicide nets. You're benefiting off of slavery. Africans sold their own people into slavery. I didn't have anything to do with that. You know, certainly as Americans, we're all in trouble, whether you're black or Mexican or whatever, because of the military is a damn invading force that is anything but about freedom. Other natural tech that I've supported was Gary Pratt and his hologram technology. That if you go to YouTube and you type in Williams Automotive, Little Rock, Arkansas, Chad Warren, you'll see one of the 2 times that I had Dennis Williams test the emissions of a truck. And just by me having a picture on my cell phone that supposedly had a quantum frequency embedded in it, that it did what the Bose noise canceling headphones do, and it canceled out the frequencies and thus the properties of the atoms in the fuel that are carcinogenic and that are measured by a 5-gas analyzer. So that's the problem with my kind of intelligence, is like, unless you are, I guess you have two options. You can either work within the academic system and be used to do terrible things, or you can be strong enough to work on your own and get that figured out. But like Gary Pratt, you know, he struggles to get that figured out, and he's a million times more intelligent and has applied his intelligence than I have. So it's not a personal situation. So, but it's very painful. And I'm not just saying feel sorry for me. I'm just saying I'm this type of person, and you know, understand that. You know, it's very painful to have inherited money and to be smart, and yet to have so little to show for it, because it's like I'm too far ahead of the other people, and I don't know how to work with other people. However, my new job makes that seem possible to me, because it's easy to sell the idea of having a nice looking lawn. And my goal is to learn how to activate the intel we grow in this alternative media virtual community. I see this virus as an opportunity to reset our way of life. I was complaining before all this that I don't know how to find people to cooperate with. I don't want to use online dating. I don't want to use Meetup, because it's like the same reason you don't want to use heroin to feel good, because it's a bad foundation. It's got, you know, problems. I don't like bars. They use our need to socialize to make money off our anxiety, meeting people, by selling us gut rot. Obviously, young people don't like alcohol to the same degree, or Natural Light wouldn't sell a seltzer. It's probably because people smoke weed more. And then I figured out something even weirder, which I commented about in my last video, is that I was down by the river barbecuing last night, and all these high schoolers showed up. One of them had a big Trump flag. They all had big pickup trucks, and one of them had all the back of the truck filled with girls, hooting and a hollering, and one of them even fell out, and she was okay. But my point is it was crazy young people. Did I see any alcohol? Did I see a cigarette? Did I see a vape pen? Did I see any drugs consumed? Not a one. And they were hot rodding and going up and down the strip until the cops came. If reality has changed that much in the 20-something years since I was a high schooler, that's a frickin' National Geographic episode right there. People in my city seem like aliens to me, let alone Asian people. I went to the river downtown yesterday. I parked my truck on the grass at the high. There, I'm telling you that story. But even the fringe folk are seduced by the alt-right in YouTube. You know what I mean? We act like NPCs. We are, anybody that rides a Harley Davidson, they are looking for a tribe. And that is a crappy version of that tribe. I had an FLHX Street Glide, beautiful black touring motorcycle, but stripped down, cool, and it grossed me out that I was able to afford that motorcycle, and the frickin' dude that works on the damn bikes at the store can't afford one. That is corporate bullshit sold to you as authentic. Just like the military. They're not here to help protect anybody but these fucking rich people. We all suffer from feeling insecure in our ability to operate as a tribe, so we use these starter cultures like YouTube. You know what I mean? So, like, everybody's got strengths and weaknesses and areas where they're not being honest. Hell, our national identities are manufactured and as poorly constituted as spy novels in an airport newsstand. It's like being stoned immaculate while being completely sober to consider how our sense of self is Swiss cheese from millenniums of centralized programming. What's the difference between the Bible and the internet? They're both collections of information. And what ends up happening, uh, you know, what goes on in the minds of people, whether you're Christian or whether you're an abortion supporting progressive, do you think it's only people that read the internet that have trouble interpreting information and making decisions? Look at Christianity. They've done nothing but argue with each other the whole time it's ever existed. Look at how this whole progressive shit show is just as bad as any frickin' conservative witch hunt, whether it was McCarthyism in the 50s or whether it was the actual Salem witch hunt or the Inquisition of the Middle Ages. It's a miracle that we have as much access to authentic nature as we do. Have you seen this documentary about Sam Jones who played Flash Gordon? I'm 44 and I've always been aware how much that cartoon model of a man has been imprinted on my soul. It actually felt good to watch that because of how effed up he was. Sam Jones, the actor, for playing that role. Because he thought he was going to be everything as an actor, and then nothing happened. He still sees himself as an action hero, but for Jesus now. and I don't mean that in a totally derogatory way. I mean it like, a positive example of he drives over the California-Mexico border every day doing something like extraditing drug criminals. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to live that action hero life, and in me, as much as I've been unsuccessful, I still thirst for adventure, which is why I live in this camper out here. Yeah. And have lived in the forest and all that jazz, because to me, McDonald's and Walmart is gross, more so than being homeless. He seems super nice, though, Sam, in the documentary, like the way he treats his fans at these events and the way he treats people in general, versus when he was younger and thought he was all this big star that was you need to be worshipped in a way that makes people pity him, like people pity me, and supports this idea that nice guys finish last. You, Thomas Sheridan, are pagan, so what do you think about barbarians? Our free spirit is so beaten to a pulp. What evidence do we have that free spirits can survive imperial conditioning or just our need for coffee every day? Still today, I want to team up and fight Ming the Merciless and our own self destructive nature. Are cartoons like Flash Gordon that trite, or is reality silly and trite? I think life isn't complicated in my way, but it's hard to have the courage to do what we know is right. I want to form a mutual aid society just so I can have a community myself. How can we draw upon our ancestors in a way that causes synergistic social engineering outcomes instead of be lost to arrested development and the Disney capturing of our applied imagination? And in closing, I'll just have the urge to mention that a good friend who moved to another city called me yesterday, and he was a comrade. Comrade. That's funny because he he feels that there's a communist takeover, and I certainly understand that. My point that I bring up, and I think Thomas, I would like to hear his answer to that. And this person knows my position on that, but it's that, well, we know that the Rockefellers created communism. Wall Street created communism. See economics professor Anthony Sutton's book, The Best Enemies Money Can Buy. So, going back to Asians, there's a big difference between those that live on the mainland versus those that live in Taiwan. They play baseball and have cheerleaders and stuff in Taiwan. And of course, Japan's awesome. It seems pretty awesome to me. And I'm sure the people of China are awesome. But I look at that like, man, the people here in America, I can barely tolerate their authority worshiping, let alone damn in China. I just couldn't imagine. So this person was sharing with me an urge that they wanted to organize a uh, community, an intentional community. And my encouragement was like, I don't think we should look at that like that's such a weird thing, because that's what all of these neighborhoods with property owners associations and gates, and like there's Hot Springs Village. It's like a whole city that's self-contained, was designed originally for retirees from the north and the Florida, or I mean whatever, to come here because it was cheaper and they could live privately. And I had all these negative connotations of that place until I went there in recent years because of my stepmother. And I was like, man, everybody here is nice. And then I was like, why couldn't you have this in all the neighborhoods? Why couldn't you have like they try to do in these apartments, but it never really works, where they have like, well, we got a swimming pool, we got tennis courts. Heck, why not get more serious about that? You know what I mean? Why not have like everything you need in your community, and then you wouldn't have to leave? I support that. Again, resetting our culture because of this virus. It is nice that there are less people on the road. I don't support global warming, and I know that all of this is done for that. And it's important that people understand, when you hear global warming, think of, and carbon uh, sequestration or LEED certified green buildings. That's just a fancy way of saying rich people are going to totally authoritarian dominate you and say it's for the good of nature, and really it's just for the good of them, because they create all kinds of toxic things, vaccines and petrochemicals and whatever, that destroy the environment. So they're just trying to blame us for that. And I think it is important that we do recognize that we are our own worst enemy, to going back towards this Garden of Eden type of environment. If we just made better choices, like my job today is to go. I'm walking barefoot for starters. So let's show this. Oh, he's walking on pallets. Oh my God, he's walking in some kind of mud. It's going to kill him. Oh my God. So, talking about goals, my goal is to. Now, that got rained on, and it is laying down more than it was yesterday. Let me check these out. This is probably needs to come off. Some of these need to come out and be planted. Anyway, so this is and I gather the water when it rains and I put it in these bottles and I wash my hands with it. Uh, Not my hands, but I wash pots and pans and I mix in some little bit of bleach or I boil it to sterilize it. But you're not going to die. You're going to be a lot happier if you get closer to nature. Okay? And it's just like all this crazy ideas in our mind become this civilization, and that's the practicality of magic. That you know how they have those people and they walk on hot coals and then it overcomes this fear. And yes, I do know that in sometimes some people have been hurt through that. So I don't mean to encourage any kind of crazy cult behavior or something like that. But anyway, we need to help each other face what to us is the end of the world. and, and it seems it's nothing to the other person. So you can't really be human unless you are close and vulnerable with other people. Social distancing is a health risk. It reduces the health. So this is a full-on battle between God and the devil, nature and machines, and our ability to regulate the flow between these states. So I, I'm trying to figure out how to organize a mutual aid society. I'm trying to figure out how to, instead of just rambling and ranting and philosophizing, how do we take practical steps? So I'm trying to incorporate what's going on in my physical life versus just these ideas in my head. Um, so how can we do that? I need your help. Thank you.